2020, right?
Where did that time
Oh,
go?
what's in the mug? That's funky.
I was thinking actually it's more a coffee evening than a beer evening for me at this point.
I was just looking at the design on it.
Oh, okay. It was chosen by my wife. That's why it's kind of stylish. Yeah.
It's such a hand model. Here's my very stylish water bottle.
Oh,
Hi, everyone. We should actually say hi to people who are joining the stream. For those who are joining the stream, do send a message in chat so we know you're alive and that you're not a bot.
Someone's listening.
Just make us feel good about ourselves.
Richard's been preparing, so he wants to have an audience. Oh, look, here we go.
True. It's true. What, Garrett? 100% not a bot? That's not what I've heard. I've heard the exact opposite. Actually, I should put that in that window so I can see all the chats and then comment as you guys give me a hard time, which is great.
We've got a big audience. That's good. A lot of people want to give you a hard time, Richard.
I don't know why I tend to attract that. Probably because if I hang crap on people, they're going to do the same in reverse, which is it's only fair, I suppose. Yeah. So, James, do we have anything exciting to tell people about tonight?
Well, I suppose you want any general news things or just onto...
Yeah, do we have giveaways or anything?
I think the YAO conference is coming back to physical this year. It's maybe the news that comes to mind after skipping 2 years of lack of YAO. So there you go.
And NDC Sydney's on in October.
Conference
which
news.
Is good.
That's right.
Which is very good.
All right, and we have our usual competition for the JetBrains license. So, as usual, 2 JetBrains licenses to give away, and I will pay close attention, as you will too, to Richard's talk. So, I'll come up with some questions to ask you at the end. So, do stay for the end. Now, tonight we do have an exceptional speaker that we searched.
Turn it up.
And wide. We looked here and there and everywhere, and we wanted someone to talk about microservices and Kubernetes. And we thought, who could we find?
Who could we get?
Yeah, we were considering someone from AWS, someone from Microsoft, someone from Azure, and we thought about it a lot. But then we realized, actually, who we really need is RBanks 54. And then I realized he was actually the co-organizer of this group. So I invited him in, and he's got an awesome build for us all today. So feel free to heckle as well.
I think it was more a case of we hunted around for a few weeks, couldn't find anyone, and then looked at each other and went, Spider-Man meme. All right, so I'm doing a talk. That's nice. This is a bit of a loose talk, largely demo, no real slides at all, which is great. And the idea of this is just to talk through some of the challenges we have with development for on Kubernetes and the local dev experience, the inner loop, and how that pretty much sucks in terms of development with containers and particularly Kubernetes. So no answers. I'm just going to tell you what sucks, and then we can be done.
That'd be the question for the prizes.
So how did Richard say it sucks for 60 minutes and really stretch it out and make it painful for people? So I figured we'd start off with sample application. So I don't know how many people have come across this one. That Microsoft's got a reference architecture talking about containers and microservices and the like called eShop on Containers. So I have taken that application, and James is going to share it in just a second. In fact, he's sharing it now, which looks a little bit like this. It's a web application, and you can sign in, and this is a sign-in service, and I'm going to do the amazing thing of copy and paste. This is extraordinarily secure. If you're quick, you can actually try connecting as well. You can jump onto that wonderful URL there that I'm not going to paste because that would be cheating. And then once I'm in, I've got orders, which I currently have none. I can go continue shopping and come here and order a blue hoodie. That's fantastic. And it's in my cart. So there's a shopping cart service and checkout, and there's a checkout service, and I place my order and I put in my credit card number, and then I've got status coming through, and there's Signal R sending task updates and everything else. I can cancel it. Oh no, it's been cancelled. Oh, I don't want my shirt. And this is the application. Now, there's also an MVC version of this, which looks a little different, complete with nice boxes around the elements, which is obviously some CSS fun. And then I could sign in there. There's a mobile application, which I haven't loaded. And there's a backend thing telling me about all the services. So you can see in here, this is the state of the services. This has already been deployed onto Kubernetes, which is why we've got AKS app sitting here. And in a particular service, what are we connecting to? What's the various details that are part of the health check? So the basket uses Redis and RabbitMQ, and the catalog's got a database. The payment gateway obviously goes straight to my credit card account details. And this is how the application fits together. Really good as a sample and kind of indicative of what you might find in a decent sized organization where you've got an application you're deploying with a whole lot of different services that have been broken up and spread. Gareth, the best developer opinions are the ones without any justification. Correct. But just coming back to that idea of here's a kind of indicative of what we might do in a work environment. You look at Netflix and they had slides at various points with their connections of services to services, and it was basically just a mess of lines all over the place. Where Kubernetes becomes interesting is that you're often able to run things in the cloud at scale that you can't run on your local machine. So if you consider, the local development experience with Docker, I could potentially run all this on my own machine. Fair enough. But I'd have to have small amounts of data, keep everything tiny, and not have any cloud resources that I'm using from my own machine, or I'd have to link out to them and configure them. And it's okay, but you get to a point where you just have too many services on your machine and you have to run like a 128 gig box just to do development. It's kind of overkill. So then we take things, we deploy them to Kubernetes, and we try working there, and we build a container locally, and then we have to redeploy it. And we're going to go through these steps just so we can really experience the joy that this is. So let's start by hoping that people give me a hard time in the comments. But beyond that, I'm going to go and try and do this largely with code and command line stuff and everything else. So the first thing I'm going to do, I should mention I have Docker running. Yay! No containers, nothing's happening. So basically going nothing up my sleeves. And already making typos, which is great. I should also mention all the code is here, .NET code. So before I hit the start, there's different gateways, different services. The catalog service here. There's tests. I've run a bunch of them. Didn't bother running the functionals, just ran the unit tests. They're fine. And then you can see there's a Docker Compose environment set up, which has a whole bunch of different services, including SQL and Mongo databases and stuff. So lots of moving pieces. So let's spin this up. And now for the fun part of running containers. So we've got 22 of them. Now, I've already pre-deployed or pre-built these, so you didn't have to go through the waiting process. And here they are, 51 containers. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. We're very excited. James, are you excited?
I'm excited.
You're lying. All right, so let's go back to wherever my browser was, which is here, and just show that things are running. I'm going to go to the health check endpoint first because I want to make sure things have started up. Containers take a little bit to spin up. And I forgot to put the HTTP in front of it. Oh, it's still not started yet. It still hasn't started. Let's try 5.4. Yeah. Oh, no, nothing. I went away from it. Oh, look. And so we're doing the first enjoyable part of sit around and wait until things go. So, James, what are we going to do for a few minutes?
Oh, this is where it's time to go and get a coffee, go to the bathroom.
No, we're going to do this.
Oh, okay, we'll do something else.
Yes. Which one am I going to do? Mm-hmm. No, that one's okay. Very good. Or actually this one because we love waiting. Awesome. All right, are we back yet? Are we back yet? We got anything running yet? This is developer productivity. This is effectively the compiling XKCD comic, just waiting for it to do its thing. Let's see if we can't hit it anyway. Oh no, still waiting.
No product.
Oh, this is so good. I knew this was going to be an enjoyable, exciting, and thrilling experience.
Are you on a fast machine?
I'm on a decent machine. This is a Pentium 2, I think. Actually, this PC. Oh no, what is it? My PC. PC. Let's just go about. There we go. About your PC, and it opens in the other window, of course. Let me grab all that and bring it over. There you go. 16 gig. It's a couple of years old, but it ticks along just fine normally. Unless, of course, we're waiting for stuff to happen. Oh, look, some services have started. Isn't this great? It's the best. All right, so at this point, my boss is very happy that it's taken me this long to get something started. Oh, wait. What if I'm going to? I don't know if I want to do this. Got chat. This is your fault, whatever comes up here. Oh. Oh, dear. And that's the appropriate response for you, sir. All right. Cool. So things are starting up, and that's great. Now, I said I had things running. Let's say I want to go and debug the catalog service. Cool. So I have the containers running. There's a catalog somewhere, wherever it is. Catalog. There it is, that API there, which is cool. Which is whinging. No, this was because it was waiting for RabbitMQ to start up. This is why it's health checks, James. Health checks.
All right.
And then once it was going, it goes, yay, hey, I'm running, and we can talk to it. So if I want to debug to that, I either have to do remote debugger, which is just the bee's knees, or I can go into the catalog API and I can, in Visual Studio, just hit the obvious run it in Docker because it's already running in Docker, right? So if I hit that and go, then Visual Studio does some funky stuff with the Docker file and includes the remote debugger, attaches to it for you so you can play around with it. And you can see it just here in the Docker run statement. So it's got the remote debugger that gets mounted in as a volume and then kicks it off. And I can go here. I could go to my catalog controller. Should I stop doing that? I should stop doing that. And I'll set a breakpoint here. Cool, get items. And then I'll go here and I will just apply my filter to make it reload. And nothing happens at all, in fact. That's lovely. Now, the reason why, if you've done this sort of thing before, you can see, oh, okay, thank you. It's starting up and then going to crash. And this should, in Visual Studio, hit a breakpoint where an exception's thrown any minute now. The best. As I choke on my water.
Richard, it's web scale.
Talk and drink at the same time. I'm such a professional. It's a horrible experience, right? We have killed so much time waiting for this to happen. But the reason it's not going to be happy is because it's actually started a catalog API separately from the compose environment, which we will see in the containers list. It started my dev container running there. It's like, oh, great. So now I'd have to stop. I'm not going to do this one because and finally it's going to hit this breakpoint because it will have timed out by the looks of it. There we go. It's trying to migrate a database that hasn't been started because the container's not there. It timed out. And I kind of want to table flip this whole thing and give up because it's just an unpleasant experience. So I'm going to stop that container. I'm also going to kill my compose environment, which is still madly flicking away over here, doing things because force it or I gracefully stop it because this is also fun. Look at all those ticks ticking away. Very, very exciting. Pull all that down and then finally give up on life. Or not. All right, drop those compose down. My machine is pushing boundaries at the moment. All right. Now, I can still work on this container. I could start it up, just run the container inside, not the container, run the process and debug my code by running the process in with Kestrel and everything else. But then I have to set up environment variables and I have to figure out what I'm doing with the services and if I wanted to actually run it, which I probably shouldn't. And then I end up basically do some code here, run the tests, make sure everything works on a unit test perspective, and then hope that everything's okay when I deploy it. It's doable. It's not great, but it's doable. Or I could play around with my app settings for local development and put in values, run my own catalog locally, things like that. Not the best, but it's okay. PHP files, Gareth, no. Right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to make it a little bit more fun. I'm going to take this whole thing and deploy it to Kubernetes. Now, I've actually cheated and done that for you already a little bit, but if I was doing this, and let's say I just want to do, I'll do this first actually. So here's it running in Kubernetes. Cool. I've put it in the default namespace because lazy, but I've effectively got all these things running. We know this because we were looking at it before on the browser, which was this one here, which we saw before. So that's actually up and running, deployed and everything else. So if I want to play with the catalog API, as an example, I need to redeploy that particular service. So the way this is done, this is the services. By the way, this is a thing called Lens for those who've used different utilities. I like this one. It's kind of nice. You can use Octant. You can use a bunch of others. There's a few around that do visual things, but catalog API here. Deployed via Helm. So there's a Helm chart sitting behind this, which comes with the eShop on Containers service as well. And if I want to put a new version of it, let's say I've made the changes and everything, then I'd do Docker Compose build and catalog API to get a build of the service I want. So that's going to go and do this. Now, this is be part of the development process. I haven't changed anything, so it was really quick in this particular case. But and then I'd want to push that to container registry so I could redeploy it, which then means I've got to do the push. Now, I've created my own little utility for this. Called tag and push and image name. And this is just the best development experience, especially when Rich is typing and can't. And catalog.api. And I fat fingered that even after doing all that. Tag and push, thank you, whatever, PowerShell. So you can see I've tagged it, and then push it, moves it up, it goes, everything's sweet, happy days. And then I'd go over here and I have to find the deployment for my catalog API, which is here, and then do a restart of the deployment, which drops out the new container images. And then I've got to wait for the old one to, the new one to be turned off on, I should say. The old one then gets turned off because of the way the deployment works. And then finally I can test my service. Whew. All right. How do I spell it for the tooling? What? Sarah, I don't know what that means. If you're just giving me a hard time.
No, I think
I'm good with that.
The lens question, I think.
Oh, lens. Sorry, lens. AAS lens. It does want you to sign in because it can do shared workspaces and the stuff, but this is effectively an Electron app. Yes, I said Electron. So I can shrink it and make it bigger, all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a nice little utility. All good. All right, so actually, if I check my health checks and refresh the page, everything up and we'll just wait. It actually will sync. It keeps a, you see this has been running now for 90 odd seconds. So again, this is part of that delay of how everything has to happen. It's just a pain. So if we think about the cost this has for an organization, our traditional developer in a loop is this idea of, we might make a change, we build it, we reload, we test it, and then we've got some time spent on committing because we commit every change as soon as it's working, right? Not just once at the end of the day. But there's that little loop that happens. Additionally, if we now think about what I just showed you from a container perspective, we have to add on to that container build, upload, deploy, test, then commit, and go from there. And as we saw with the Kubernetes thing, we can just add that on again and again. So if you look at that percentage of time that happens, if I do this even once an hour, it's still a decent chunk of time every hour that I'm losing, that I'm falling out of the zone, that I'm waiting for plumbing to happen, that I've got to remember my command line utilities or scripts that I'm doing. If I haven't scripted anything, then I'm doing it all by hand all the time. And it's just like, just shoot me.
Yeah. I mean, even
all I really want to do, sorry, James?
Oh, just even 1 minute's pretty long for a local dev cycle. Even, usually with a hot reload or something, you're almost... Exactly.
We're talking hot reload, everything's there. It's like a half a second, 2 seconds, and everything's updated. This needs to be fixed. Now, Microsoft have a product called Bridge to Kubernetes, which I am not going to show because it doesn't seem to get a lot of active love and has some constraints around it that aren't great. What I'm going to do is show you a tool called Telepresence Io. And the way this works, there it is for you. This is from Ambassador. The way it works is kind of cool. Where is it? Architecture. So, little picture, because a picture tells at least 100 words. There are 100 words on this picture. Your laptop, we run a daemon on there that connects or proxies traffic from the cloud to a service, and from your service that you're running locally back up to the cloud, to the Kubernetes cluster. This local service doesn't have to be a container, can just be a local process, which is great because if it's a local process, it means I can run this sucker in debug mode and connect it up to the rest of the cluster. So effectively, I'm dropping my process in as if it was part of the cluster. And the way it does that, it runs a traffic manager up here that listens for the traffic and then sends it to the appropriate pods. So you'll create an intercept for a pod and intercept the service, and then it adds another container into that pod. So a pod, if you're not aware of the Kubernetes thing, is effectively a group of containers working as a unit. So it drops in a sidecar into that pod and then proxies the traffic to and from. So instead of any traffic hitting the container, it now gets redirected back out to my machine. So effectively, once I set this intercept up, I'm going to stop any traffic going to the catalog service, and it's going to come to my machine. Now, this does mean you need to be careful, because don't do this in production, kiddies. Any traffic gets intercepted and sent to my machine, which means most requests are going to time out. The best thing you can do if you're doing this approach is to have either individual environments running in the cluster or temporary environments that you can spin up, use, and then throw away. So there's a little bit of work around this that needs to be done to make this work. So let's have a look at how this works. So I'm going to start off by going to Helm, and the catalog service has redeployed. We want to deploy this, and there is a Helm chart that does it. It's cool. So I've connected to the repository. The docs are pretty straightforward on this. And just to make it simple, I'm going to install it. Very tricky. I'm going to put it in the Ambassador namespace, and it wants to be, what am I calling it? Traffic manager. Thank you. Right, and install. So it's going to do a Helm deploy. Can't reuse a name that is still in use. Excellent. What have I done to myself here? Deployments. Did I leave a deployment hanging around the other day? I probably did. No. I have releases. Do I have a release? Oh, I do. All right. Let's just delete that release and pretend it didn't exist. This was not part of the demo, by the way. So feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
It's demonstrating the pain.
Demonstrating the pain. All right, now we're going to do the install. And the options in here, by the way, are just so you can control how things are running. So Traffic Manager has just been deployed, which means I will have a pod in that namespace, which is sitting there. So what I can do now is go here, and there's a CLI utility for the laptop side. And it runs a daemon. It actually runs two daemons. One is on a root one, so you have to give it, you have to elevate for that one, just because it's doing a proxy for the network traffic and the like, and then a user daemon for monitoring the services that exist. So I am going to just also to show a few things. What am I doing? Contexts. So I'm running in the context of my cluster and default namespace. So anything I do by default will go into the default namespace. Very clever, which is where we have all the eShop things running. Right, so launches the daemon. Next to, based on the context, the cluster, checks that I've got a connection to the traffic manager, and we'll come back in a minute or two. This is a kind of a one-time job just to get started, just to make sure everything's sweet, which is quick. We need something to kill the time in between. Yeah. What gives this time? Oh, I'm jealous. Oh, come on, launch the daemon. All right. And this is me doing a demo. Fantastic. Oh, come on. Come on, connect. 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 You're up and running. I can see you. It's going to be really awkward if it doesn't want to connect.
And you just pivot to like, you should really do local dev, I think.
Should also just have a bunch of services, so I'm connected there, which is great. One of the things I will need to do, by the way, is I need to know what port. So I'm going to do an intercept on the catalog API, and I need to know what port I'm interested in. So I want to intercept 80 or 81. I'm not too sure. So what I can do is get extra information from Kubernetes about that and just say, tell me what it is, and just I'm just going to add a little formatting to say, give me the ports, and it says port 80 is, strangely enough, HTTP, and 81 is gRPC. I don't care about the gRPC one at all, and that is just sitting there doing nothing. That's superb. Cool. I'm just going to check if it's started and just not telling me. All right, we're going to have to go scorched earth policy here. And it is, I'm going to quit the user daemon. Oh, that you disconnected, and you are really struggling. Oh, there we go.
All right, it's dead.
All right, Telepresence status. Excellent. Right, but connect again, and you get to see nothing while I do my elevation. Launching and connect. 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 There we go. All right, now we're connected. It's possibly because I left the root daemon running and turned the cluster off while I was saving money.
You got it.
All right, so we are now connected. Yeah.
Is this flaky software, or is it normally bulletproof?
There's a few little things with Telepresence, just in terms of some of the things that it does that not always. It's more in terms of shelling out. I think it might be the terminal, but tends to be pretty good. Anyway, so telepresence list, it's picked up that here's my catalog. It's ready to intercept. The traffic agent is not installed. Cool. So I want to start an intercept on this thing. And if you recall, 80 was the one I'm interested in. So I'm going to go and intercept the catalog API as a service name. So this is the actual service name. And within that, because we're doing, this is a Helm thing, because we're doing, a replica set. Let me go to default. Because we've got replica sets, the actual containers and deployments are kind of messed up a little bit with extra naming on the end of them. So we want to talk about that and then target the specific container within that one. And I'm going to get all the environment variables from the cluster, which is really useful. So at this point, I'm intercepting the request, which is great. And if I now go and talk to here and apply, this should have a sad moment with me because it's not going to get any results back. And if I look at catalog.env, all the environment variables have just come down from the cluster. Fantastic, which is great because that means I now can use these to point to what I want. So when I start a process up, I can do everything. I can and if I go to .env K8s name, nothing because the process hasn't actually got that. I would have to then go and do a set of all these, which is a pain in the butt. So there is a way to, there we go. Error requesting catalog products.
Right.
It's timed out because it can't get to my machine. The network traffic has been intercepted. It's getting no response from my local machine, so therefore it's failing, falling over, and being generally sad with life. Now, if I want to restore that, apart from having a fat finger moment again, my goodness. I need to leave a particular intercept. You can have multiple intercepts. So every port, every service, you can intercept all of them and redirect them to your machine as much as you want. But when you're done, you have to leave the correct one. When I do that and then go status, it'll be cleared. And if I go back to this and apply again, great. Everything's working. If I apply, no results, great. Visual Studio, something else, other, everything's working fine, which is cool. All right, so I want to have a run of this. I'm going to put it in here, command.exe. So what this is doing here is basically saying grab all your environment variables and proxy it through to whatever process this is. Now, this could be run, for example, as well. I'm just going to do command for fun because I'm in the wrong folder at the moment. And you can see the difference. I've just proxied that. And if I do K8s name, environment variable, yes, which is the environment variable back up here, which is cool. So we've got all those available, which now means if I go to, oh, there you go, I'm not in PowerShell anymore. CD services /catalog API, and let run, and debug, which is by default. That service will kick off. This is now a local process. No containers. I'm literally just running this sucker. What's interesting with all this is one thing I didn't mention. is that I can actually go and look at other services by service name. So Kubernetes, that I could talk to the basket API and say, hey, give me your thing. Now that's not a valid URL. That's just the DNS resolver inside Kubernetes telling me where the service is and everything else, which is really cool because it means I can now talk to the SQL service. I can talk to the SignalR service, whatever else it is that is in there. So have I got that connection there? There's my service running, port 80. Did I actually capture the port? Yep, port 80 on my machine is mapped to the HTTP port, which then means back on here, if I go to this and go other and apply, there's my responses. And to prove that's working, where was my debugger? Catalog controller. All right, so I got a breakpoint here. I'm going to do attach to process. And I want the catalog API attach, which is cool. Go away diagnostic tools. And if I do it again, and we'll do all and apply.
Drum roll.
Come on. Apply.
Services, by the way, Richard?
Sorry?
Can you bring multiple services local or just one at a time?
Yep. Okay, it's just whatever process is running. Did I hit the right one? Items. Actually, even better. Force it. Oh, what did I intercept? What did I actually intercept? It's doing something. Oh. Am I on? Oh, that's if. No, that should be fine. Am I on the right request? Who knows? Oh. Did I debug process catalog API? Yes. All right. That's fantastic, Richard. You have done superb here. Stop the service. So are you going to stop, or did you kick another service in? No, you're fine. Excellent. Excellent. Debug. Make sure. And it will kick back in. And it will do things and prove. Definitely waiting for a response here. Nothing. Good. All right. Debug is set. Attach to process. Log API. Correct. Attach. You can do it. Cool. I'm not interested in the containers. Go away. All right. And there it is. There's the, I don't know what I did before. There we go. So now I can step through and I can, because it actually skips over it because it didn't have any ID. So I put the breakpoint in the wrong spot because, and then I can let that run. And obviously I have a problem because there's a timeout in here as well. So this is one of those tricks. If I'm capturing requests in the cluster and someone else is using those services in the namespace, then I'm going to intercept everything. Not much fun. So let's do one other thing just to prove this is really working. And I'm going to stop that for a second. And I'm going to change. So save that. And go back here, shut you down. And this is one of those things that I'm not sure if it's Telepresence or if it's the hosting the shell, but basically, at this point, it doesn't really want to give me a connection. It's bizarre. Like I can't get back to the I can't get back to the shell to run it again. Where am I? CD here because I can't type. All right. Let's let me just check. I've still got the intercept in play, which is cool, but I don't have the environment variables running locally. So I'm going to actually get that to leave. So I'll leave that one and I will check again. I'll do this the easy way. I'll do it the way I've do it as well. So I could do .NET debug just to make sure. Debug. Oh my. All right. Off. Now this approach, by the way, as soon as I exit the process here, should cause the intercept to be automatically killed, which is cool. All right. So up and running, up and running, up and running, up and running. So that's running. And if I go back to here, there I am. And load it up. Load it up on convert. There's our word awesome sitting in there. So it's definitely running off my local machine. Lets me play around with it now. And effectively, even though it's a little bit fiddly, it's not perfect. It's definitely a hell of a lot better than what we were doing before. And it does mean that if I'm accessing things in the cloud, services that I might not have on my machine, such as large databases, for example, whatever this is doing here, this is an EF query, obviously, in this particular case. But that's a database that's not on my local machine. I haven't done anything. All I've got locally is just the service. And then everything fits together. So kind of cool. Couple of questions. Actually, I should pick it up. Cheyenne, what have I found to be the top benefits of favoring Kubernetes over a PaaS solution like app services? App services are good for single service things. Trying to put together a lot of microservices as app services, you've effectively got to have you either have to set up a VNet, virtual network, between those things so they could communicate without having to go to the internet and back. But you also don't have the same compute density. So each app service you're running, well, depending on your app service plan, you have to manually put them onto the app service plan so you can do the scale out that way. If you want to duplicate them and have multiple namespaces for temporary environments, for example, you have to spin up all of that infrastructure for the temporary environment versus just having your nodes in a node pool, spin up a different namespace with all the same services in it, connect to it, and when you're done, throw that entire copy of it away, which is one of the things we do at work, for example. So there's different ways of doing those things. So there's pros and cons. App services are good for simple and your basic things, but AKS and Kubernetes gives you a bit more flexibility, but it comes at the cost of all the extra weight and having to learn all the AKS terminology and everything else. Slow deployment looks like my Docker doesn't use WSL. Incorrect. Sorry, I didn't show that. WSL2, definitely there. Kubernetes is not limited to Azure, correct? It is running on anything, GCP, AWS. You run your own cluster if you really feel like going old school. Just because you like pain, run your own cluster. You can even, I could have done this using Kubernetes locally and done Minikube, for example. there's different ways of doing it. And then there's kind as well, which lets you run clusters inside clusters. It just gets really confusing. But at least hopefully you see now that this is a nice way of playing with things, a nice way of part of that development flow. If we think again back to the timing here, we're trying to shortcut this piece. I want to be able to bring it back from an inner loop to build, reload, connect to the cluster and intercept and everything else, but make sure it's okay. So there's a little bit of extra time here, but it's not this whole container build, upload, redeploy nightmare. It's start the process, go. And if I was a bit cleverer and thought through things earlier, I could also basically start the process here, run Visual Studio, and it would have already had all the environment variables set. So I can then do .NET Run, hot reload, whatever else I'm doing, because I'm within an environment where all of the environment variables are already preset, so I don't have to do that work. Or I could take the env file, run a script, and then deploy, but then I have to undo that when I'm done. And just to show you, when I shut down this process, and do that, and go to Telepresence status. Because I kicked it off, the intercept has been automatically removed and back up in the cloud. If I hit the refresh again and just reload the thing, actually, let's just do, can I hit apply? Oh, there you go. They're all gone. So the connection is done. What if there are stateful containers doing work in production I can't kill? How redeploy works in this case? So this is some of the constraints. So one thing I didn't show you behind all this magicness is the catalog API got redeployed. So this now has two containers. It's got the catalog API just like all the other ones, but there is a traffic agent running. So when I actually did the intercept, let me do the basket one, just so you can see this happening. Let's go. Baskets. All right. And .exe. All right, so it's over here. So I just kick that off. It's now starting a new deployment. So here's the current basket running. It's got the new one. The traffic agent has been deployed. It's now going to wait for the basket to spin up. And then once that's done, it will drop the old one, because this is effectively a new deployment of the service. So you've just got to be aware that that happens. Stateful containers doing work, by the way. Yeah, you've just got to just watch your volumes more than anything else. Generally, you're storing state on a volume somewhere. So Telepresence does do volume intercepts as well, which is volume mounts. So you can intercept a volume and make sure that you're storing things yourself. But again, you're just going to have to play with this and figure out what works and what doesn't work. It's not a be all and end all and magically everything's going to be fantastic. It's more it solves a very discrete, clear problem point for a lot of people, which is that inner loop. You might still have to do other things around that. What if the old is in the middle of the transaction? The transaction will wrap up. That's part of the deployment here. So by having this service currently receiving traffic, it will actually get done when the final one gets removed, and then all the traffic moves across. Yep, transit runs until it commits or dies and rolls back the transaction. Correct, Mr. Teaspoon. That wasn't a question for the giveaway, was it, James?
No.
I don't think so.
Very good there.
All right, cool. That's pretty much the run through. There's a few other things that can be done. I think the one I mentioned before, probably just worth noting just how this plays out. This is a little sample with the API gateway stuff, but effectively that idea of running different, the whole service duplicated across different namespaces. This is this idea here. You effectively take your cluster and within that run, maybe your UAT environments, your test environments, your training environments, I don't know, whatever, performance environments, but on a per dev basis, spin up another environment. And these might point to shared services, shared databases. Be careful of doing that because the shared database problem is always a problem. But you then have your own environment that you can play around with, use as your own temporary dev environment with all of your services and everything running. So you can make as much of a mess as you want, stop the traffic and direct it to your local machine, but know that you've got a full environment effectively as if your laptop was running in the cluster as a node, which is nice. So this is different to, say, code spaces, for example, which is effectively just a container in the cloud running your workload. This is more a case of you've got an entire environment. How do I do that? And then move traffic to and from. Any other questions coming through on chat, James, that I've missed?
Dimitri is just saying that, the rollback wouldn't be a good user experience. Maybe you've got a queue.
No, which is why it normally waits. So you can see the basket service is cleared out now. Kubernetes will wait until the traffic has quiesced basically on the old one. So when the last connection drops, it then gets rid of the service, or the pod, I should say. So you shouldn't really get a rollback from that. Unless you're doing distributed transactions. No, don't do that. All right, what else have we got? That's pretty much it. So hopefully that's useful for everyone. Something to have a look at. It's still one of those areas, I think, in terms of development that is being iterated on. I will also give you a bit of a tip. Telepresence, certain commands will install the Pro version, which links to an ambassador account. So they have a... did I close it? They have basically some, where is it? Where is it? Interceptor service, the test one. Dev environments, previews URLs. So one of the things you can do if you use the ambassador service is effectively get a name generated for you for your environment that you can then give to other people to test so that they do all the work giving better names than what I had, like that, for example. And then making sure that the intercepts are there and other stuff. So it's kind of cool, but it's a pro service and probably to the Ambassador Cloud environment. So if you're interested in that, have a look. I don't use it. Can't tell you how well it works. And ASDF Monkey, you are welcome.
Maybe better the competition before ASDF Monkey goes.
Better do that. All right, James, it's all yours.
All right. So now, first question. Are you ready? Are you set? All right. So what design pattern does Telepresence use as its main core thing?
I have no idea.
We typed it like 8 times. I mean, you typed it. I didn't type anything.
I typed it. Did I type it? Did I?
I was thinking interceptor, but we've got proxy.
Is that that's the word I highlighted there?
Yeah. I think we'll give it
HTTP cat.
All right. I think we go with proxy then, I guess, or adapt to that.
Yep, the intercept sets up a proxy, correct.
All right, so send me your email, Dimitri, over Meetup, and I'll send you through your license. And now the next question.
Your item shall be an NFT for the license.
Yes, we will send you your money as cryptocurrency. Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, we'll give you a license which has not gone down. Oh, license for what? A license to any JetBrains product. So basically, you get a code that lets you unlock any of the JetBrains products of your choice. Yes, Lord Teaspoon has one.
Including the most loved IDE for C# devs.
And many
According
other
to
things.
Stack Overflow.
All right. So the other question is, what environment should you not use for telepresence? I had it the other way around, but I thought it was too hard.
Yes, production.
All right.
Don't intercept all of production's traffic to your laptop.
Yes, or even some of the services, which it might even be worse. I'm not quite sure because it'll kind of work. All right, Gareth, I think you've also got several licenses, but yes, send me your email again so that I remember to send you the license.
Let's give it to Sarah. She looked like what she knew. She was more confident with her answer.
Lacking the probably. All right, we'll go to Sarah. Sarah's also got some licenses, but you want it, Sarah, right? You want the license? All right, so send me an email.
There's plenty of other things other than .NET tools, by the way.
Yeah, so there's a whole pile of them. There's like 20 last time, but there's probably like 30 by now or more that you can choose from.
Yeah.
Like there's anything from SQL tools to
anything on screen there.
Yeah. So JetBrains got tools for everything. There you go. Lord Teaspoon is answering everything here, so that's good. Cool. All right. So the other thing is that we're looking for a speaker for next month. So if you want to follow in Richard's big footsteps, then just send me a message on Meetup or Twitter or whatever else. Probably Meetup's the easiest, and we'll have a chat about it and book you in. As you know, this group is pretty friendly most of the time, so it's a good place to practice. Certainly for new speakers, it's friendly, and even Richard only had a few heckles. I must say, I did like the 60% of the time one.
60% of the time works every time.
So please let me know if you've got a talk you want to give, or even if there's something that you want to hear about. Let me know. Or you can let Richard know. Either way. But he's going away, so probably better let me know. Just this month.
Just this one time.
Just this one time. And thank you very much, Richard. That was a
lovely.
And it was quite...
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay. All right.
Shall we call it?
Call it. Good night, everyone.
Right. Look, I even finished pretty much right on time.
It's well done.
And
Richard.
yes, you did introduce HTTP Cat, legend.
And HTTP Dog as well. All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Hey.